I used the products. I had like this health transformation. It was a cleansing program because I'm into my health and fitness. I started doing fasting.
What was your relationship with alcohol at this point?
It was never like a big party thing, but you could say, at dinner I'd have 3, 4, 5 cocktails, which is quite significant.
That's a good nudge.
It's like you're dragging an anchor. You're training so hard, but you're still having that 1 or 2 drinks. So I made a decision, and it was I'm not done a drink for the next year.
Get you back into the construction game, Adrian?
My mum's been asking me to put a range hood into her house for the last 5 years, and
Welcome to the show. I am James Swanwick. Today we're talking about rock bottom. How do you fight back from rock bottom when you've lost your business, your romantic relationship has ended, maybe you're stuck in a foreign country and you don't speak the language? Today's guest experienced all of that and more. Our guest today is a fellow funny talker like me, a fellow Australian by the name of Adrian Nicholls, and he's 39 years old. And he is an executive with our organization, Alcohol Free Lifestyle. He's become, I guess you could say, a recent friend of mine. We've known each other for probably just over a few years now. We met during that incredible time in human history called the pandemic. We met in person in Bali, Indonesia. And as I got to know Adrian, I realized that he has a fascinating story to share. And we're going to dig into that story on today's episode. We're going to be talking about healthy habits, fitness, stopping drinking, his hopes for his 40s. He's 39, he'll soon be 40. Not many people stop drinking in their 30s, I have to say, and Adrian has done that successfully, which puts him in the top 1% of the population, in my view. We'll be talking a little bit about what it was like to feel like you're in a prison when you're in a 2-week quarantine in a Sydney, Australia hotel during the pandemic, and what life is like now being alcohol-free with socializing, doing business, networking, and mindset. With that, Adrian Nicholls, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, James. It's good to be here.
Great to have you here. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you grew up, and just, how you view life, and then we'll dig in from there.
Beautiful. So, guys, my name's Adrian Nicholls. I was born originally from Melbourne, Australia. Similar to yourself, I think you're from Bacchus Marsh. So, born in Melbourne, Australia. Grew up in the country, a country town called Hillsville. Pretty normal life growing up. As I said, in a country town. Did a carpentry apprenticeship when I was 16. Had a business by the age of 19. Kind of fell into that 9 till 5, working in construction. Had a pretty successful career in construction. Bought my first house at 21. I always had the ambition to buy a property, and then I wanted to travel the world. It's just funny now that we're in Colombia here. I was able to buy a house at 21, renovated. Pretty small social circle. Just a typical Australian guy, I guess you could say. As I said, in construction to about 27, renovated a house, bought a couple of properties, but then I had this part inside of me that just wanted to travel the world. So the goal was to get the properties and then obviously have the rental income so I could then go and experience life, go travel the world. So there was always this burning desire inside of me that I wanted more. But I did at the time wanted to build some sort of foundation. So, when I did go and experience that, I didn't come back to having nothing.
Yeah. That's a pretty pioneer type mindset, I would submit. Like people usually, at least growing up in Australia, most people got a job, got a mortgage, got married, had some kids, and kind of postponed traveling the world, into retirement. But it seems like you wanted to live a lifestyle of traveling the world and financial freedom in your 20s.
Yeah, I think that the mindset is always work hard now and then we'll do the travel later. But for me, it's like completely reverse. I want to travel when I was younger and experience life, be able to take more risks, really give life a go, because rather than reversing it, then I'm going to work for 30 years and then I'm going to go and travel the world. My dad now says my dad's, he's always mentioning, I wish I did what you did, which is now he's doing the retirement and he's traveling and whatnot. The goal was always, and the ambition was to get those properties and then take off on a trip. Which I did. I went to South America, first trip ever, flew out to Chile in South America. Never been on a trip before. Furthest I'd been was New Zealand. And at 27, I just bought a one-way ticket with a Kiwi friend of mine and flew into Chile. And then, spent 6 months traveling around South America, no plans, nowhere to be. And that kind of opened up a whole new mindset to me around the way we can live our lives.
And did the rental properties back in Australia provide you with the cash flow to be able to fund this travel?
Yep. So the properties were rented. I had rented out rooms. So I was making some positive cash flow and was able to travel around. Back then it was a lot cheaper. This was 10 years ago. I think I spent about, not a lot, $15,000 for 6 months traveling around South America.
Amazing. You mentioned your father before. His name's Warren, right?
Yep.
What was he doing when he was 27? Like, just so we can see the contrast there.
Yeah. So when he was 27, as I said, just that typical life growing up. He got married early, and I think he had three boys by the time he was probably 27, maybe 30. So he was an upholsterer, and just that kind of normal life. And then he went through a divorce, and when that happened, his goal was to travel, to make the most out of his life. Yeah.
Did you feel different when you were back in Australia before you went overseas? Like you said, you were a carpenter and you were building houses, working construction. Was there a moment where you realized that maybe your view of the world was different, your personality was different? Did you feel different? Like what?
Yeah. Definitely. I was always very ambitious when I was young and growing up, and as I said, I always wanted to explore the world. But I always did feel like a bit of a black sheep, like as they say. Like I just felt like conversations started to bore me around like talking around the weather and the football and sports. It wasn't until I was about age 30 I'd come back from that trip, and I remember a perfect time. I was sitting on the end of my bed. I got home. Big trip, got back, sitting on the end of the bed, unpacked all my stuff, put it in the cupboard, and then I just sat there and I was like, what now? Like, I don't know, just when you travel and you experience it as well, like you can go out to dinner any different night of the week, you're meeting new people all the time, there's so much variety. And then I got back and I just felt I was just, I felt like I just didn't fit in. So I felt it hard to then integrate back into a normal life.
Let's just backtrack a little bit. Those 3 years between 27 and 30 when you went back, what did you do? Like, what were some of the things you did? And what were some of the things that you learned, traveling around?
For the travel, definitely. So obviously I learnt, and it's probably a skill set I have now, was like living in traveling around South America was having to learn Spanish. Some traits that I did learn was not knowing, like being okay with the unknown. Because you're always traveling, you're always moving. Nothing was certain ever. And then you're speaking a language, Spanish, which was majority. So you're learning, you can't communicate. You've got to learn how to communicate with people. So I got really good at, you could say, communication in general, like just meeting people quickly on the fly, meeting people, long-term relationships. That was definitely something that I learned was people skills. Yeah.
Because you're kind of forced to, aren't you? Like it's a matter of survival. You're in a country, you're on a continent where you don't speak the language, and so you've got to get along with people.
Yeah, you got to get along with people, build rapport. And I did find with being back in Australia, and when you are just in the normal day to day, it's not like we learn these skills because we just go to work, we come home, we may meet the same people at the coffee shop. Your path that you spend, you're not meeting a lot of new people, new personalities. So adaptability is probably something that travel has really given me a skill set in, is learning to adapt super, super quickly.
So what happened when you got back and you sat on the end of the bed and you thought, what now? What happened from there? That was 30, so that was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, so that was 30, 10 years ago. That's kind of when it all opened up. So I got back. I think I lasted about 9 months, maybe a year of working, making money, again back in construction. But I was working while I was working on the job. Like my mind just wasn't there anymore. I was, on the tools, but my mind was elsewhere. Thinking about the next trip, where that was going to be. I did take a trip. I flew into Mexico City alone, just took a random trip. Can't be here anymore in Australia. Going to Central America, going to do 3 months in Central America. At the time, I didn't have anyone to go with, so I just booked that ticket. This is where I really learned, just stepping into the unknown. And I remember flying into Mexico City, and I'm not sure if you've ever flown into Mexico City, but it was at nighttime and coming down, and the police cars in Mexico City, they have their lights on all the time, which in Australia they only have their lights on in an emergency. So I'm flying into Mexico City, and there's blue and red lights flashing across the whole city because they drive around with the lights on, and it's about 5 in the morning, still dark, and I'm like, what have I got myself into here? And I remember because I had to walk to the hostel, and the walk to the hostel was about 1 kilometer because it was in the center of Mexico City.
Yeah. And I imagine at that time as well, there were probably a lot of drug wars and violence.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. It wasn't the safest place to be. It wasn't like it is now.
Yeah. So you've gone from like the relative comfort of Melbourne, Australia, into Mexico City, arriving in the middle of the night.
Into Mexico City. And I think it's just like that contrast of emotions, like putting yourself in these situations where it's just like, oh no, like, how have I done this? Have I made the right decision? And then I walked to the hostel, it was all good, but then rolled into the meeting people, building rapport, and then all of a sudden that trip was incredible. It was 3 months spent around Mexico, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and then I got back to Australia after that trip, and I wanted to go again like super quickly. I was trying to get into Canada to go to a snow season, and I met a girl, and she introduced me to a nutrition program, which was a network marketing model, so peer-to-peer sharing. And she drew out like the compensation plan of this business. And she said, hey, if you use the products, if you get good results, and she showed me the results people were getting, you use the products, you get great results, then you can share that product with people and get paid a commission. And I saw the model, and if I'd shared with 2 people, it was $350. And in my mind, I'm thinking, as a carpenter back then, I was making $350 a day. I was like, well, if I just tell 2 people about this, like that's a day that I don't have to go to work once a week. So I could get my day down to 4 days a week instead of the 5-day week. So I used the products. I had like this health transformation. It was a cleansing program. Because I'm into my health and fitness, I started doing fasting. Never been introduced to fasting before. So I'd ordered this system. 2 days of it was a fast. So there's a mindset there of like not eating food for 2 days. That's pretty out of it. And, all the limiting beliefs that come with that. But that's what took me into fasting and cleansing and high performance. And I got phenomenal results. I started sharing with people the program, started to get paid. And it just opened up something for me. The girl that enrolled me she was smart enough to take me straight to a Tony Robbins event. Very, very smart. She enrolled me and another guy that had gotten started in that week, and she took us to Tony Robbins event in Sydney, and that's what opened up like this whole new kind of, I guess you could say, mindset.
Was it an Unleash the Power Within conference? Yeah, which is like a 3 or 4 day Tony Robbins event, isn't it? Where he goes there and everyone's dancing and jumping up on stage, and you're getting all hyped up and you're making breakthroughs in your life. And they're long days too, right? They start at 10 in the morning and go to 10 at night or something.
I think it's like a 50-hour seminar.
Yeah. I've been to 3. I think I've been to 3 Tony Robbins. I remember the first one I got a free ticket. I went with my brother. We were in London, England at the time. I think this must have been about 2001, 2002. And I always thought Tony Robbins was some kind of cult leader. And I was like, I'm not going to this guy. But anyway, I got these free tickets, and my brother and I went, and we walked into I think it was the convention center in London on the first morning of the first day. And there were people in suits and ties dancing on stage to Billy Idol's song, Money, Money.
Yep.
And my brother looked at me and he goes, oh my God, we've walked into a cult. And we were so skeptical because we were like, from Australia, and we're kind of like, I don't know, we're just skeptical of American gurus, personal development kind of stuff. But I have to say, they were just wonderful 4 days. At the end of the first day, we walked on the hot coals and did all that kind of stuff. And that was pretty interesting. And that was kind of like my first foray into, I guess, personal development. I'd love to say that was what started the momentum of personal development, but it wasn't. After about a week of completing that, I kind of went back into old routines, candidly. And it wasn't until some years later that I went again and then started really getting into it. But it seems like when you were there, it opened up a whole lot of things for you.
It definitely unleashed, as I said, it unleashed something inside of me for sure. I'd never been exposed to anything like it. Just learning about limiting beliefs, learning about belief systems.
Yeah.
None of this. Like I was just in construction. I was just a normal Aussie guy.
Yeah.
I took something, I called a spade or whatever they call that saying. It's like I took everything on face value. And then doing this event, you get opened up to belief systems, what actually creates our behaviors. Like why are we getting the results that we're currently getting in our lives, which is based on what we believe about things to be true. And then he shifted that, like he showed us, especially walking on hot coals. You don't believe that it's possible to walk, I think it's about 5-10 meters on hot coals. But with the conditioning and the changing of the belief systems, and then the way the neuroscience works is changing the way the brain works, things are possible.
And so, what did you create from that feeling?
Yeah, so once that event happened, I said it was a 50-hour seminar going till 2 in the morning. You're going till. When I got back from that, I got back to my house down in Melbourne, and I had this business now. I had a vehicle that I could put effort into, and I could see a result. And I was able to retire myself in 3 months. I was able to go into that business, and with this new mindset, this new energy, I was able to leave construction within 3 months. So I'd replaced my income. And yes, that was 9 years ago, and I've never been back to a 9 to 5 job again, you could say.
Anyone needs their house constructed, then give Adrian a call.
I'm out of the game.
Can we get you back? Can we get you back into the construction game, Adrian?
No, my mum's been asking me to put a range hood into a house for the last 5 years, and I've put it onto a friend of mine.
So this new mindset and new energy replaced your income, and you did this. It essentially was. Do you call it network marketing? Is that
it's called? Yeah, the business model is called network marketing.
Yeah.
So it's like they call it multi-level selling, but it's like a peer-to-peer sharing. There's a lot of bad talk about it, but it is actually a good vehicle. And
it was fasting and cleansing. What were the physical results that people could get if they took this product just quickly?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So with the fasting, it's just like giving your body that break to start to regenerate itself. Giving your cells a break. Because what happens is when you do the fasting, you stop eating, your cells, your body can go to work on starting to clean itself. Because we were grew up in, our ancestors come back cave time when, there wasn't convenience of buying food on the general store at every street. We had to hunt, and then we had to fast between the next hunt. So what fasting does is it allows your body to actually rebuild itself, because every cell is consistently splitting apart, every second of the day. And what happens is those old cells, they're splitting and replicating old damaged cells. And when you fast, those cells become oxygenated, fresh, clean, and they split. And, it's rebuilding your body from the inside out. It's an inside out approach.
Got it. Okay. So you were doing this and you were getting results, and the results you were getting was what? Was it energy or getting lean?
Energy, better sleep, immune system. Like I'd never get sick at all. Friends would get sick, but I'd never get sick. Getting leaner, putting on more lean muscle. The fasting actually increases the testosterone levels in men by about 1,200%. 1,200%.
Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah. So I was putting on lean muscle. I was sleeping better. I was my pupils were purely whites. Just feeling really, really good.
And the supplement that was part of this product was just to support that fasting and that cleansing. So it didn't break the fast if you digested whatever this supplement was.
Yeah.
It didn't break the fast, but it just supported
the fast to make it a bit easier. You can do just a general water fast, but this supplement just made it a little bit easier.
Got it.
A bit more easier for the everyday person to do.
Okay. So I teased at the beginning of this episode that there was, a business being lost, and there was a relationship that ended, and you were stuck in a foreign country, and then you were in a hotel quarantine. But we're only at about age 32 or 33 here, and now you've replaced your income. You're feeling great. Things are rocking.
Yep.
What happened from 33 to 37?
Yeah, that was an interesting window of life. So that company, we did really well over 2 years. I was traveling the world, going to seminars. I built a huge team. So I had this exposure to, just traveling the world. It's just the contrast of how life can be lived. And then that business kind of lost momentum, and I kind of got tired of sharing the same message, talking about the same product, bringing people into the business. And there was always a mindset around, like, with a business model like that, why am I bringing people in, but it's only some people that actually are successful? And, everyone's got the same system, the same process to follow. And I started to really dig into the psychology of, like, why can I give it to one guy and he needs it so bad, but he does nothing with it? But why can I give it to another guy and he runs to a 6-figure income? So what really made me curious was psychology. Like, I really started to look into psychology of why that is. And that's when I started to move into the space of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and I started to go along to these sorts of seminars. I did the seminar circuit. I learned from a lot of different mentors all around the world. I was flying here, there, and everywhere, and I was just taking in information. And then I did a master's in neuro-linguistic programming, and I got into doing men's coaching. So I started to do men's coaching and helping men, typically like 30 to 35-year-old men, 28 to 35, find their purpose, get clear on what it is they want, and then give them the steps required to get there. let's go back to your question. What happened? I had a coaching business. It was going well. And just recently, obviously, with the pandemic and all that stuff that happened, I'd actually gone out to Carnival in Brazil to see a girl that I'd met at a Brazilian girl. I'd met her at a personal development event in Australia. So I met her in November in Australia in 2019. I flew out to meet her in Brazil for Carnival.
Yeah, and just for those who don't know, Carnival's kind of like the annual big week-long party fiesta that they have in Brazil. I actually did 2 of them 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. It's an amazing week-long event. It's kind of like the Super Bowl week, but in Brazil, right?
The Super Bowl of all parties,
yes,
I guess you could say. So I had a 2-week time with her I flew into Rio and did Carnival, and it ended up being, it was planned for 2 weeks. I did Carnival, it was amazing. After that, I decided to go down to Argentina for 2 weeks to do a Vipassana meditation, which is 10 days, complete silence.
I did that in a place called, I think, 27 Palms, which is outside of Los Angeles in California, a couple of hours outside of it. I did that in 2013, 10 days of silence.
Yeah.
Not allowed to say anything.
How was your experience?
I mean, it was boring, insightful, invigorating, energetic. I had transformational, sad. I got angry. I got irritated. I got euphoric. I mean, I experienced all of those things. And ultimately, when I came out of it, I'd lost so much weight because you're only eating vegan food. I remember the day I got out of it, I looked in the mirror and I had a 6-pack, and I hadn't even been working out. It was just the fat had just fallen off me from not eating processed foods. And my skin looked so much better as well, just from maybe it was the food, maybe it was the sleep, but it really did help me have a much more positive outlook on life and realize what was and wasn't important. So that was my experience. What about yours?
Yeah, it's just amazing to think 10 days without doing anything. It was the same, very similar to you. It was long, it was hard, it was great, it was up, down, all the emotions got felt on day 7 of just complete silence. There's no eye contact. There's no eye contact. There's no talking. They've got men and women separated.
And it's about a group of 20 or 30.
We had about 100.
Oh, you had 100?
Yeah.
Mine was about 20 or 30. You know, when I did mine, I went to Burning Man, the annual festival in Nevada.
Yep.
For a week, and then I came out of it and went straight into the 10-day silent meditation. Talk about a contrast.
That's exactly what I had. Rio, Carnival, and then 2 weeks. I'm with this amazing girl. I'm in Rio, the biggest party, and then 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in silence in the back of Argentina somewhere, 2 hours out of Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happened then?
So, I did that while I was in this meditation. It was March, I think it was 12th to the 18th of 2020. And this is when they started closing down countries. This is when they started, with everything that happened, they started closing countries. And I'm in this silent retreat. So it's no contact with anyone, no contact with the outside world. And it was around March 16th. I got out on March 18th. So the 10 days finished, come out of the retreat, and we get our phones given back to us. Check my phone. There's about 80 messages. Adrian, what are you doing? You got to get out of there. They're about to close the borders. And I'm reading the news. And Australia's just closed its borders. Bali's just closed its borders. So I was living in Bali at the time. So Bali's closed. Australia's closing. And Maria, my ex-girlfriend at the time, she was...
your girlfriend
Sorry,
at the time.
my girlfriend at the time.
Now your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, who's now my ex-girlfriend.
We're going to get to find out how she became your ex in a few minutes.
Yeah, so Maria is, hey, you got to come to Brazil because they're about to close the borders. And at the time, I wasn't actually dating her. I'd just gone to see her. So I'm take a taxi back into Buenos Aires. They're closing down all the roller doors on all the buildings. It's looking like something out of the apocalypse. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I had to organize a ticket, got to the airport. They're all dressed in hazmat suits. It was super surreal. Got on the plane, flew into Brazil. It was the last flight they accepted. And then Maria picked me up. We went to her apartment down in the south of Brazil. And then over the next 2 weeks, we just watched the world start to close down. And I'm just like, what do I do here? Can't get into Australia, can't get into Bali. Is there anywhere else I can go? She's like, well, looks like we'll have to just bunker down and stay here.
Mm. So you're kind of forced into a romantic relationship in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
And how did it play out?
So I had her mum had an Airbnb at the time, so I was able to stay there at the Airbnb. I didn't speak Portuguese, and if anyone's been to Brazil, they don't speak a lot of English there either. It's like 3% of the population. So
but Maria did.
Maria spoke, 3 or 4 languages. So she was a lawyer, well-educated, spoke 3 or 4 languages. She was able to speak English with me. But I was living 3 hours south of her house, which was in Curitiba, which is more inland. And I needed to be living somewhere that aligned with my values, being on the beach, and I needed to be able to train like Muay Thai or some sort of martial arts, just so I felt, considering where I was, I didn't want to just live in like a city. So I was living at her mum's place, Airbnb, because everything was closed. There was no one traveling. And I was stuck there for a year. It ended up being a year total that I was there for. So I was living there. I was working. I had the coaching business. I was doing pretty well. I was onboarding 3 or 4 clients a week. I had this amazing setup, Facebook ads into a like an introduction of what I do, and I was able to take calls with potential clients, and I was doing well. My business was doing reasonably well. So that was all good. But then I woke up one day and Facebook had shut down all my Facebook accounts, all my marketing pretty much went down overnight. So I went from a multiple 6-figure income, lifestyle business, laptop lifestyle, to basically 2 weeks into being in Brazil to 0 income. Yeah. Waking up and seeing that, and now I'm on a separate time zone to Australia. I'm having to get up at 4 a.m., do coaching calls, potential client calls. So the time zones were really skewed. Getting up at 4 a.m., finished by 8 a.m., and then I've got the whole day to myself where Maria was at work and I'm in a country where I don't speak the language, don't really have anyone to converse to. It was an interesting time.
I remember my Facebook advertising got shut down during the pandemic as well. I was back in Brisbane, Australia, and that was frustrating. There was no reason. Tried to reach out to Facebook customer support. They gave you like really vague general answers. No one could give you an answer on anything. I think I got shut down for like 6 or 7 months. This is I was trying to promote this very program, the alcohol-free lifestyle, our stop drinking services. That was I wouldn't say that was a stressful time. It was just a real pain in the ass irritation. But thankfully I had the podcast and had a few other means of getting the message out there.
Yeah.
But that I can totally understand how frustrating that must have felt. But for you, it seems like you were almost reliant on that.
I was super reliant. It's just one process. I built out it in Bali. I got it all working. It's finally working, and I knew if I put $1 in, I'd get this much return. So I had a business that, and I was doing fulfillment. So it was working. And then that went down, and then from there I was like trying to do reach outs to people and, keep my business going. Maria was working. I'm in this city 3 hours south of where she was living. And over time I just started to, you could just say it was great. Like obviously being in Brazil, amazing nature. We were taking hikes and stuff on the weekends. That part of it was great, but following my purpose and having a mission and a reason to get up in the morning, when all that went down and I'm kind of like scavenging around to get things working, plus trying to learn a language, plus feeling the isolation, plus trying to maintain a relationship, meet her friends, going to dinners and stuff where everyone's speaking Portuguese and I just don't know what's going on. For a guy that's usually super resourceful, will get things done pretty easily. I'm pretty effective in getting things done. It really started to just chip away at my character, like my persona, you could say, personality.
And did Maria sense that?
I think about 8 months in, she definitely started to sense it for sure. Yeah, I wasn't as certain as I was in myself. She'd come home and she'd be like, did you make a sale today or did you enroll someone? I said, I am just struggling to get through the day. Like, don't talk to me about, enrolling people into my program when I'm really struggling just to get through the day. Like the isolation, it was such an uncertain time. I didn't know what was going on, you don't know if you're going to see your family again. It was so uncertain. Yeah. And then it was just a very interesting, I'd say very character building time.
Your dad, Warren, back in Australia, were you worried for his health at all? Because Australia got shut down big time, right? And they were so strict on all of those lockdowns, which, was Warren struggling with his own isolation or having his own problems?
Yeah, for sure. The whole family back in Australia, I felt guilt, I guess you could say, because I was in Brazil. It wasn't like they were showing on the media. It was pretty open. People at the beach. I felt guilty, like posting pictures and like sharing what I was up to. Yeah. Because of how severe the lockdowns and stuff were in Australia. It was, he couldn't even go to get a coffee from the, he'd sit down on a park bench and he'd be, rolled off like it was, back in Germany or something like that. It was. Yeah.
They sent helicopters up on Bondi Beach, I think, in Sydney at one stage with the police helicopters saying, get back inside and blah, blah, blah. But So how did that? This seems like it was a pretty tough time. You got no income.
Yeah.
You're not even living with your girlfriend.
Nah,
you're living in your girlfriend's house. So I guess there might be some feelings of masculinity come in there as well, like wanting to be the man and be able to provide, but you're relying on the good fortune of your girlfriend's mother. And
yeah, I had her apartment, this penthouse, for a couple of months, but then I did find my own place. I had a beautiful property on the beach that I was renting, but yeah, eventually I was in this city 3 hours south. It was her holiday place where they usually go. So she'd come on the weekends, Friday till Sunday, then she'd go again. So the 5 days of the week I was alone in this city. I think I had one or two people that spoke English in the whole city that I knew, a guy that lived in Canada, and my Muay Thai coach could speak a little bit of English. So I was training Muay Thai, trying to keep on top of my mindset. I was running every day, but yeah, over time, I just started to get a little bit complacent, you could say. Started to lose a bit of myself. My grandma had passed away at the time, so it was very challenging because I couldn't make it back to Australia for her
she
funeral.
died while you were in Brazil.
Yeah, and they'd done the whole thing, weren't letting people into hospitals, these sorts of things. So there's a lot of stress in the family. And then kind of being in isolation, having to watch my grandma's funeral on a Zoom call was pretty full on.
What was your relationship with alcohol at this point?
So at the time, that's a good question. At the time, I'd just say I was just drink with a girlfriend, like just on the weekends kind of thing, you know. Yeah. It was never like big party thing, but you know, you could say, at dinner I'd have 3, 4, 5 cocktails, like, which is quite significant.
That's a good nudge.
It's not a small amount. It was just a part of the lifestyle for me back then.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that the drinking was at a level that you think maybe was contributing to your feelings of isolation or despair or whatever, or do you think nah, that wasn't really a factor?
It wasn't a huge factor. It wasn't like I was having, huge nights out and really wake up in the morning like kicking myself, but it was just a part of the lifestyle at the time. Just like I'd never, until I'd met you, like when I met you out in Bali, where I'd done the whole complete year, like alcohol free, it was just that typical mindset of, that's just what we did. Like, especially from Australian culture, it's just like, having drinks on the weekend, you're always drinking. Like, it's just part of, sports events and these sorts of things. So it was never something that I completely stopped. But for sure, it definitely had an effect on my performance and my mindset. Yeah, for sure.
So now you're 8 months in there, but there's starting to be a few cracks in your relationship with Maria. So what happened? How did the beginning of the end play out? How did it end? And then how did you end up back in Bali meeting me?
There you go. So I worked with a mentor, and what he shares is like, as you said, the cracks started to show. He calls it the dints in the armor. The dints were there. They started to show, which was finances, business. Had everything reliant on one thing. So business wasn't going well. Relationship was starting to take a hit because I wasn't in that masculine role where I was leading, and Maria had to always speak for me as well. Like I couldn't organize rentals, I couldn't organize much because I didn't speak fluent Portuguese. So she's doing the talking for me, she's doing the organizing for me. She's got a business to run with like 100 employees. I got no business, I got no friends, no circles around me. I'm not in my own natural environment. So that relationship, one day she just woke up and said, I'm done. She couldn't come to Australia.
So wait, she woke up and she said, I'm done.
Yeah, pretty much. Latinas.
Well, did she give you a reason? What was the reason she gave you?
Nothing really. There wasn't, wasn't super clear. So the story goes even deeper. Like my visa had run out in Brazil, so I had to actually leave Brazil. And the only country I could get into at the time was Mexico. So my girlfriend's in Brazil. My family's in Australia. My house is in Bali. Can't get into Bali. Can't get into Australia. Have to leave Brazil. So only place and country would let me in at the time was Mexico. So I had to go to Mexico for 6 weeks while my Brazilian visa would roll over again. So had to fly to Mexico solo, alone, away from the relationship. And I think that's when things started to the cracks started to show. I took that space, and I think, she probably found herself with me away. And then I come back and it kind of just went a bit downhill from there.
Got it. Okay. So then how did it feel when she said, I'm done?
That's it. I'm done. It's a bit of a shock, especially that she was my only real anchor point at that time, because everything had fallen away. The business, I didn't have my circle, my friends. I felt I'd lost my identity because I couldn't speak the language. So unconsciously, I was kind of holding on to that. That was the only thing of certainty that I had. And I remember her just sharing that with me and, oh yeah, no worries, it'll be fine. But then now
you said no worries, it'll be fine.
Yeah, as you do as a man. So yeah, no worries. But not knowing that, it was super important to me, the relationship. So I kind of pushed it away in the beginning. But, after being a week in a country where you don't know anyone, I definitely started to feel it as a big loss for sure.
Yeah. And how did you cope with that? How did you process your emotions?
Oh, that was challenging. So I didn't even have any friends to usually you'd go catch up with a friend or, and talk it out kind of thing. So now I'm in a country where, it wasn't just her, it was the circle as well. There was about, all of her friends that I was friends with, her parents, I was involved in her family. So it wasn't just her that I wasn't speaking to. It was kind of like a death of a whole life. It was just like just a takeaway of all these relationships. And now I'm in this country. Okay, I got to get back to Bali. I got to get back to Australia. How am I going to do this?
A lot of our listeners have gone through a divorce or a separation, right? And they turn to something to numb that pain. And the thing that they mostly turn to is alcohol, right? To numb the pain, to help them deal with that. You didn't though, right?
No, I didn't. I turned more towards the fitness. Yeah, I had to take some sort of anchor point, and at the time I was training with a Muay Thai coach, and I took to the fitness, probably trying to make myself feel better.
Probably did it work or did it?
Yeah,
not work?
definitely. I had to put my energy into something, so I just paid this trainer. I was training with him an hour a day. I was running. I had to put my energy into something.
Is it possible that you were suppressing your emotions or your pain from the breakup and the feeling of isolation with the exercise? I mean, look, if you're going to choose something to try and distract yourself or deal with it, you're much better off doing it with exercise, right? The science is pretty clear on that than you are in drinking attractively packaged poison that we call alcohol.
Yeah, for sure.
But do you think now in hindsight that the pain of the breakup was what inspired you to go so hard into the fitness?
I think so. I think in life we need anchor points. We need something that gives us certainty. Like we need to know when we wake up in the morning the sun's going to come up. We need to know these. We need certainty, but we also need uncertainty. And yeah, you've got to look at those. As my mentor says, what's the low-hanging fruit? And the low-hanging fruit is fitness. Everyone can focus on their fitness. We all have a physical body. We all know that if we eat clean, we exercise, we sleep well, then we're going to start feeling at least a bit better.
Yeah. So this is the part in the Rocky movie where they start playing the training montage. It's like
Adrian.
The inspiring music comes in, and now we've got a montage of you working out on the beach and you're eating clean.
It wasn't as nice as that. I was still going through a hardcore breakup, and still being in a country where, I was trying to find a way out. Like I had to try and find a way back to Australia.
So what happened then?
Well, they weren't doing flights. Like they'd shut down all flights. Yeah. So there was a time like, over the next 2 months, I'm trying to get out of the country. That relationship's finished. I'm trying to get home and make a plan. And I think about 3 times I went to the airport, bought a ticket, get to the airport. No, you can't fly today. Spain's not accepting the Australian passport, or you can't go through America. They're not. So it was just such a weird time. So it was like 3 times where I'd said goodbye to all my friends that I'd known for a year and a half. I'll see you. Not sure when I'm going to see you again. Get to the airport, and all of a sudden I'm back. Maybe next week. So it was a very uncertain roller coaster, bit of time, character building.
When they finally let you out, where did they finally let you out to?
So I think the lady behind the counter had some empathy for me, and they actually, Qatar gave me I think they just wrote it off for me, a first class ticket back to Australia. She's like, come back in 3 days and we're going to get you out of here. One of my friends at the time could speak, he's Brazilian, and he spoke to them and he'd organised with them. Still to this day, I don't know if he actually bought the ticket for me or not, because he saw the sort of, challenges I'd been through. So I'm not sure about that, but I had a first class ticket out of there and flew into then Sydney, into quarantine at the time.
Because they put you into a 2-week hotel quarantine, right?
Yeah.
When you fly back into Australia.
There was no way around it. So I flew in.
And you got to pay for it too, right?
Apparently I was supposed to pay for it.
You didn't?
No, they're still sending me the bill.
Oh, I see. Are you out of principle not paying?
I'm out of principle. Out of principle with that, yeah.
So that means that you were opposed to whatever the Australian government's stance was at the time, and out of principle you're not paying.
It was only ever directive. It was never actually a law. So I've just messaged them and said, hey, this isn't law. If you can give me the part where it says it's mandatory, then I'll pay. But yeah, I don't think it ever was.
Is that you standing up for your own principles?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Has anyone questioned that and said, "Oh, come on, mate, you should be paying that"?
No, well, it just kind of went away. They just haven't pursued it. So a lot of things like that, they never pursued. They never pursued. All the fines that they put out were never, actually legally standing. They withdrew them all. So there was a bit of a grey area there at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Australia was a bit of a mess at that time.
It was a big mess. So yeah, flying back into your own country and feeling like a prisoner, like, you fly in, you land at the airport, they push you and take you away to a hotel room, close the door, and you're in this room for 2 weeks. No windows, or there's a window, but no wind out window, no fresh air into this hotel room. So this is where it really all hit me. Like they put you in the room and they close the door for 2 weeks.
And I guess you were running low on cash at this stage?
At this time, I think I'd borrowed $2,000 off a good friend of mine to fund me to get me back.
You weren't tempted to hit the hotel room minibar, get some vodka or?
I don't think they were serving the minibar at the time. I actually didn't think about that.
You know what I think? Just as a little side note, I think the most ridiculous thing that I saw and experienced during the pandemic was liquor stores being considered essential services, which were allowed to stay open. So all of these businesses had to close. Right? Yet liquor stores, in Australia, we call them bottle-os, bottle shops.
Yeah, bottle shops.
That was considered an essential service. So people could still go out and buy alcohol, but you couldn't go to any of these other small businesses and buy healthy food, for example, or these other things. That was when I saw there was something fundamentally wrong with the system. And whether the system is the government or the world or the perception, I don't know, but that was infuriating. And what was even more infuriating is that I was pointing these out to friends and family, and they couldn't understand what I was so upset about. I'm like, how the hell can the government shut down 90% of businesses for fear of public health, yet they're opening up alcohol for consumption, which compromises human health?
Exactly, and you'd know the statistics of how much that time. Alcoholism went up. Like
it went through the roof,
through the absolute roof.
People were drinking, and now we're still seeing the consequences of that today.
Yeah,
like people's health is just deteriorated. I mean, there's all these studies that are coming out now that people's alcohol consumption went up 30% in some states of the US, 20% in other places, and that causes more liver problems, more stress, more irritability, more mental illness, more isolation, more depression, and yet. At least in Australia, I'm not sure where it was in many of the other countries. They're like, oh no, bottle-o,
essential.
Essential services.
Essential. How is it essential? It makes no sense.
Preposterous.
Circus.
So you got out of the hotel room.
So 2 weeks in there, got out of the hotel room, flew back to Melbourne, lasted about a week, saw my family, was amazing. I wasn't in the best mental state. Seeing my family was great. But I was back in Melbourne and I was just like, I cannot, if I'm going to make any moves, I cannot rebuild from here. Not in Melbourne. It was still uncertain. They were doing lockdowns, opening things up. So at that time, I was 7 days back there, hit my little brother up, said, can you lend me $700? I need to fly to Bali. I need to get out of here. I can't be here. And booked a ticket, got to the airport in Melbourne. This is when you weren't allowed to fly. Got to the airport. There was no one at the whole airport, maybe 5 or 6 people at all of Melbourne Airport. No one. It was just so bizarre. Went up to the counter. Sorry, sir, you can't jump on. You don't have a pass to leave the country or an exemption. What is this exemption? What are you talking about? You can't leave. You need to talk to that police officer over there. So I walked over, mate. I don't live here. I'm never here. I'm here one. He's like, so you're not coming back? I said, no, I'm not coming back. He goes, no worries, you can leave. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, when everybody's thinking you can't travel, just one conversation, and I was on a plane. Yeah, out of there. Flew into Jakarta. Another 5 days of quarantine. So this is
another 5 days. I did that in was it Jakarta? I think I did it in Jakarta as well when I got into Bali.
Yeah.
I had to ride. I was in Australia for much of the pandemic, for at least the first part of it. While this is all going, you're in Brazil, I'm in Australia at the time. And for me to leave the country, I had to write the federal government a letter requesting to leave. And I had to say, I've got this US business, I need to go, I've got these meetings and stuff. And then I had to wait for them, and then they had to grant me approval to leave, which I thought was kind of crazy. Now, some listeners might be going, oh, well, that's in the best interest of public health. I'm like, okay, I won't argue it. But the idea for me that I had to write to my government, the Australian government, to request to leave the country seems preposterous, especially in hindsight.
Considering at the time they were flying in tennis players, flying in rock stars, celebrities, yet the general public had to go through these loops, these barriers to just leave the country. So, 5 days in another quarantine, which 5 days was pretty easy after doing 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was in Indonesia, so they let me out of the room, basically. I was walking around the hotel. I was out and about. It wasn't really... and they put me in a taxi from the airport. Like, the taxi driver could have just taken me anywhere. It wasn't too what would you say? I don't know.
But anyway, you got out of there.
Got to Bali. And then from Bali, this is when I decided this whole alcohol-free thing, alcohol's not serving me. This is where I'm at complete rock bottom. This is when I need to draw a line in the sand. If I'm going to rebuild, I need to eliminate everything that's not everything that's a distraction that's not serving me. So I got a villa. I luckily got a sales job. Did the 80-20 principle instead of doing the whole coaching business and everything. I looked at like, what am I good at? What am I good at? Which was coaching and sales, and enrolling people into a vision. So I cut back the whole business. I got a sales job at the time, and I just went back to the bare basics, which was waking up in the morning, meditating and letting go of everything I thought that was meant to be, the guilt, the shame, everything that come with that relationship, just sitting in meditation and just being okay with like nothingness. I had to just start like letting go of this whole attachment to everything. So practicing meditation 20 minutes a day, every single day with a timer on, I just started doing that, and just consistency of building back that self-trust of doing what you say you're going to do as a man. Like, I think that's so important, because in Brazil, I'd stopped trusting myself. And that started to show through in my decisions, because it's so uncertain. But when I started just doing the things over and over again and building that, I am someone that does what I say I'm going to do, which was the meditation, going to the gym and training every day, and then coming back and doing sales and doing something that I'm good at and building that evidence to show myself that I'm good at it. I started to build back my certainty, myself, my confidence, myself. I had to start to learn how to talk to people again, because I hadn't spoken like in a big group for, 12 months, 15 months. So I remember going to there was a UFC fight on, and all the boys were watching it at a house, and there was about 20 people there. And I had like social anxiety. I didn't know how to present myself. I didn't know how to talk or converse with people anymore. I'd lost my wittiness. I lost the banter. It was so socially awkward. So I had to just learn from the basics and just be okay with being anxious and just learning and building back my character and building back myself. And I did that for 12 months in Bali, yeah.
That's so interesting that you lost that social confidence or conversational skill set from being in a Portuguese-only speaking country, I guess. Yeah. What were your initial impressions of me when you met me?
Hey, you were pretty chill. I remember meeting you at the villa, but with a friend of ours, and my impressions were really good. Like, I heard you'd shared about what you're doing at Alcohol Free Lifestyle and the business and your other business that you have, and I think we got along pretty well from the beginning. Yeah.
And was the fact that I hadn't drunk for probably 12 years at that time, was that a further reassurance for you that you were on the right path with not drinking?
Definitely. I feel you meet the right people in your life at the right time, and you can only ever meet people that you're on the same level with, or the same frequency, as they say. Otherwise, as they say, if you're looking for a red car, you're going to see the red car because you're looking for it, and you start to attract the right people around you in your circle. So, we resonated and we started to get along. We have the same values, health, fitness. You're a little bit older than me, but we're probably at the same fitness level. So, we started to catch up, go for coffee, walks on the beach, catch up. It was, I think I went to your birthday while you were over there.
It's funny you should say that, because in iPhoto, it brings up photos randomly, whatever. Just yesterday, the photo of my birthday party, and my birthday party was a walk on the beach with my friends in Bali at the time, and you were there. I didn't actually remember you were there. Sorry that you were so forgettable, mate. But
that's all right. That's all right.
I saw you in one of the photos there. I'm like, oh, Adrian was there. Look at that. There he is. He's smiling. And that was my birthday. It must have been 2001, September 7, 2001. 2021, I should say. And I organized for all of my Bali friends to go for a walk on the beach. So we met at about 5:30 in the afternoon. We walked along the beach in Canggu, which is one of the areas of Bali. And then that was like a 30-minute walk and then a 30-minute back. And then we had drinks. So when I say drinks, they were like mocktails because no one was, I think maybe there was 2 people drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, this is my birthday party. I got 30 people here and only 2 of the 30 people are ordering alcoholic drinks. And one of them was a Russian woman who, true to form, was drinking vodka. And I was like, that's so funny. But everyone else was super health conscious and most people were in their mid to late 30s and mid 40s, I think, which was fascinating, I think. Like, so you were there and you were making some more money. So you were doing sales calls on your laptop, on a computer for an Australian company.
Yep.
You were making commission, getting your financial means back up again, right?
Yeah, yep.
And so anything else that you learned in that time in Bali?
Just learned to go back to the basics was, as I mentioned, the meditation, cutting back, and something I did, as I mentioned, was eliminate everything that wasn't serving me, which was drinking, even if it was 1 or 2 drinks on a Friday night or a beer for sunset, whatever. I just made a decision that this isn't serving me anymore. And especially when I was in health and fitness, it's just like, it's like you're dragging an anchor. You're training so hard, but you're still having that 1 or 2 drinks. So I made a decision and it was, I'm not done a drink for the next year. I went like celibate. I didn't date for the next, 12 months. And I was just full focus on building everything back, which was, as I said, the body, the business, the finances, and then a social circle as well, like building back a really strong social circle in Bali.
Yeah. So just as we head for home here, how did you end up sitting next to me right now in Medellin, Colombia in 2024? We're recording this in the final days of 2023. This episode will air in the first part of 2024. How the heck are you sitting next to me now in Medellin, Colombia?
There you go. So I don't know. I think we just got off to a good start when I met you in Bali, and I think we stayed in contact. And I randomly, so I had that year in Bali, then I traveled for a whole year pretty much last year, but randomly opened a gym in West Hollywood. And I think we were in contact at the time because you'd lived in West Hollywood for quite some time. So we were still chatting. The gym didn't go too well. And at the time I was still doing the sales role. We have this gym that we launched in West Hollywood. It wasn't going too well. I left it for my business partner to organize. And then I'd been spoken to you. You wanted me a little bit of help. We'd spoken about your business and you were looking to expand. You want to get out there and help more people. And I think we'd had that conversation. I was going to jump on and help do some enrollments for you and help with the applications that you're getting. And I think I looked at it and said, hey, you don't need this role. We need to look at this part of the business because if you're going to get out there and help more people, you need to make sure this business is like, the foundations are solid. So these people have the best experience and also your business does the best it can do. And I remember I flew down here to Medellin. I think we did 5 days. I said, I'll just fly down. Let's just catch up. And we sat down and we kind of mapped out what you want to do and where you want to go. And then, all of a sudden I'm a part of the team and it's been 6-7 months now. We've been through the weeds of it all. We've got it to a really great spot and it's, and then I decided to leave. Where have I been? Traveling, back to Bali, and then just decided I wanted to come out here and be with you in the business, and it's just a lot easier with the time zone, especially help you on your mission and where you want to take this.
Yeah, that time zone is East Coast USA time zone most of the year, and Central when daylight saving takes place in the US. And so what is it about alcohol-free lifestyle and the organization and the mission and what we do, or anything that you've noticed about how I see the business or how the staff are or how our clients are? Like what's been interesting for you working in the business for 6 months?
Yeah, so for me, as I mentioned, like with that last business I was in, great offer, it served me well. It served me on a level that I needed at the time, which was to get my finances back on track. But it was a B2B offer, and it was a B2B offer, not too much heart to the business, if that makes sense. I don't know who's listening to this podcast, but not too much. It's a B2B offer, and after serving and supporting you, obviously the changes of what you're creating with your program. One thing is 98% effective. Like I don't know anything out there that's got these sorts of results. Like that's massive. That needs to be shared. There's so many people that need something like that to know that it's those results. Like it's just unheard of. So that's one thing, is you've got a product and a service that actually gets results. Two, you've got massive integrity is what I've noticed with you. It's either complete or not complete, meaning, you always want the best, and everything has to be within integrity. So having heart, having a big mission, you walk your talk. Like, that's another big one as well. There's so much smoke and mirrors out there in the coaching space, and a lot of people aren't doing what they say they're doing. And you're 12 years now, is it? 12 years alcohol free.
14, yeah.
14 years alcohol free, and especially there's probably so many opportunities where you could be having a drink. Like, you live a lifestyle where you are watching sunsets all around the world. You're doing all these great things, but you walk your talk. So it's awesome to find a company. I think they're unicorn companies, to find a company that's so congruent that you can align with it. Like, it's good to be able to plug my skill set in to make sure that it's not just the income, it's not just having a role, it's actually serving that. The pivotal things that I change and help you in your business is actually making a much longer impact with your clients. We can reach more people.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And you've had a vital role in the company in getting the foundation set for us that is going to give us the opportunity to really impact so many more people than what we have so far. So I thank you for your contribution so far, and long may it continue.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Great to have you here. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, you, the listener. We talked a lot about coming back from adversity and health and fitness and quarantines and fasting and cleansing and psychology and NLP and Tony Robbins and men's coaching and more breakups. I'm sure lots of people can relate to having some kind of pain in their love life from time to time. If you would like to check out some of our services, which Adrian's been helping us with for the past 6 months, the last 6 months of 2023, you can always go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. And Adrian just referenced that 98% success rate, which is from a scientific study that the University of Washington conducted in the first quarter of 2023. If you'd like to see the results of that study, then you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/study. Adrian, it's been great spending this time with you. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me.
And to you, the listener, we'll catch you on the next one.